Welcome to Mindset Mondays, the bite-sized podcast designed to build a happier, healthier headspace. Think of it as a learning snack for your morning commute to set your week up right. I'm Mark Holloway, and today's episode is about something deceptively simple but incredibly powerful: how small changes compound into massive results over time. We tend to believe that big outcomes require big actions, dramatic transformations, sudden breakthroughs, overnight success. But the truth is often the opposite. The biggest changes in life usually come from tiny improvements repeated consistently. In fact, the same mathematical principle that builds millionaires in finance is the one that can transform your health, career, mindset, and happiness. And that principle is compounding. The magic of compound interest. Let's start with one of the clearest examples: money. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not, the idea behind it is undeniably powerful. Compound interest means you don't just earn returns on your original money, you earn returns on the returns. Imagine two people starting to save. Person A saves £200 a month starting at age 25 and stops at 35. Person B waits until 35 and saves £200 a month right up until 65. Now, depending on the rate of interest, even though person B invests for 3 times longer, person A often ends up with more money at retirement, simply because their investments had more time to compound. Did you know that if you invested just £10 a week over 40 years and didn't withdraw anything from the fund, you would have £152,000. And of that, only £20,800 is the money invested. The other £131,000 comes from interest and the miracle of compound growth. Time multiplies small actions, and this principle works far beyond money. It applies to habits, skills, relationships, health, and mindset. A useful way to think about compounding in everyday life is through 1% improvements. If you improved something in your life by just 1% each day, after a year, you wouldn't be 365% better because improvement compounds. Mathematically, improving 1% each day for a year makes you about 37 times better. Meanwhile, getting 1% worse each day reduces something to almost zero. The lesson? Tiny choices matter far more than we realise. The extra 10 minutes reading, the short walk instead of sitting, the kind message to a friend, the £5 saved instead of spent. On their own, they look meaningless, but over time, they shape the trajectory of your life. One of the best real-world examples of this idea comes from British cycling and a man named Dave Brailsford. When Brailsford became performance director at British Cycling in 2003, the team had almost no success. In almost a century of Olympic competition, Britain had won just one gold medal in cycling. Brailsford introduced the concept called the aggregation of marginal gains. The philosophy was simple. If you improve everything by just 1%, those small improvements add up to extraordinary results. So they look for gains everywhere. They redesigned bike seats to be more comfortable. They tested different massage gels for faster recovery. They optimized athletes' sleep by bringing their own mattresses to hotels. They even taught riders the best way to wash their hands to avoid illness. Individually, these changes seemed trivial. Together, they transformed performance. At the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British cycling team won 60% of the gold medals available. 4 years later in London, they dominated again, and the same philosophy helped Team Sky win the Tour de France multiple times. The lesson wasn't about cycling. It was about systems of improvement. Big success often comes from hundreds of tiny advantages. How about compounding in personal growth? This principle appears again and again in research about habits and learning. Psychologists studying skill development consistently find that deliberate practice over time beats bursts of intense effort. Short, consistent sessions outperform occasional heroic effort. A language learner studying 15 minutes a day for a year will usually outperform someone studying for hours, but only sporadically. The same is true for exercise. Research on habit formation shows that people who start with small, achievable routines, like 5 or just 10 minutes of activity daily, are far more likely to stick with it long term. Why? Because consistency beats intensity. How about a historical example coming from the British Navy? In the 18th century, scurvy, caused by vitamin C deficiency, was devastating sailors on long sea voyages. Ships could lose half their crew during extended journeys. Then, in 1747, a Scottish doctor named James Lind conducted one of the first controlled medical experiments. He discovered that sailors who consumed citrus fruits recovered dramatically. The change required to prevent thousands of deaths? Just adding lemons or limes to sailors' diets. A small adjustment with enormous consequences. That single insight reshaped naval history and saved countless lives. Sometimes the difference between failure and success is surprisingly small. So if small improvements are so powerful, why do we ignore them? Why? Because our brains are wired for immediate rewards. Small actions feel invisible in the moment. A single workout doesn't transform your body. One saved pound doesn't make you rich. One positive conversation doesn't fix a relationship. But the reverse is also true. Skipping one workout doesn't ruin your health. Buying one unnecessary thing doesn't cause debt. So we underestimate the cumulative effect of small choices. Life, however, is constantly keeping score over time. Mindset itself compounds. Every thought you repeat strengthens a mental pathway. This idea comes from neuroscience and the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through repeated experience. If you repeatedly think, "I'm not good enough," that belief strengthens. But if you begin to practice a different internal dialogue, even if it feels artificial at first, the brain slowly adapts. Small shifts in thinking repeated daily reshape identity. This is why self-talk matters so much. Tiny mental habits compound just like financial ones. So here's the mindset shift for today. Stop chasing dramatic transformation. Start building tiny systems. Instead of asking, "How can I change my life?" ask, "What small action can I repeat every day?" Examples might be saving £2 or just £5 a day, reading 5 pages of a book daily, walking 10 minutes daily, writing one sentence in a journal daily, practicing gratitude for one moment before bed daily. None of these will change your life tomorrow, but give them 6 months, a year, or 5 years. The compound effect becomes enormous. There's a powerful question you can ask yourself at the end of each day. Did today move me 1% forward or 1% backward? No drama, just slight improvement, because the direction matters far more than the speed. Tiny adjustments change the future. Success in life rarely comes from one defining moment. It comes from thousands of small decisions made consistently. Small habits, small improvements, small acts of discipline, and small moments of courage. Just like compound interest turns small savings into wealth, compounded effort turns small actions into extraordinary lives. So this week, don't focus on doing something huge. Focus on doing something small, but doing it every day. Because when small actions compound, the results can be life-changing. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mindset Mondays. If it resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to remember that big change often starts very small. And until next time, remember, small steps repeated consistently can take you further than you ever imagined. Bye for now.